Hello guys, and welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms video. I'm RoyalMixGaming, and today we're going to be talking about Trajan. So whenever you're using your 5 marches on the field, or whenever you're using more than 5 marches if you're a big spender, a support march sometimes can help you in general to take better trades for your other marches in the field. Because Trajan here, he buffs skill damage. So his primary skill is it deals a small damage factor to the target, gives you rage per second to your allies, and then gives you up to a 25% skill damage bonus without expertise. So with his expertise, he gives you, I think, 30% skill damage increase and a slightly higher damage factor. So on my alts, I decided that I was going to do Trajan about 6 months to a year ago, at least a couple months ago at least, and I invested at least halfway into Trajan, and I've used Trajan in the open field, kind of gotten used to how he works, and I got him to 5.524. So the main reason you would want to bring Trajan as a support march is if you have marches that do a lot of skill damage, such as Nevsky, the newest commander. If you have XY, Guan, Nebu, things like that I would recommend you have, those types of commanders that do a lot of skill damage, a march like Trajan can go a long way to buff your marches and make them do more damage. However, he is going to be a punching bag. So with trades with Trajan, it's either going to be even, or you're most likely going to get a tiny good trade or a much larger negative trade. So it's kind of a trade-off with him. He's going to take more bad trades than good trades, but then he's going to buff your other commanders in your marches to do more skill damage. So if you have marches like Attila and Takeda or things that don't do skill damage, he's not really the support march for you. The reason why I did him is because I wasn't planning to make this account a fighting account until very recently, and I was just going to use him by himself and buff myself on my main account. Instead of doing it for my main, I would do it for my alt, but ended up not doing that and making this a fighting account. So if you're going to be using Trajan in the open field, some of the pairs that you can do with Trajan that I would recommend to you, and one that I've used mostly is using him with Ethelfled. It's probably the most universal pair because everybody can max Ethelfled easily with time because you get her free from your daily stuff, from the expedition and things like that. Other commanders that you can use with Trajan that work but aren't necessarily as good, you can always use Joan as a secondary commander to Trajan to buff your allies with rage and other defense and health depending on the troop type. Another commander that you can use that's more the high spender commander is Mulan, and before you use Mulan, you want her max because you're going to get an all damage increase. You get the attack, defense, and health bonus from Mulan. She makes the target take less damage here, and then you also, which experience doesn't matter, but you get damage taken increased by, which is 20% for the target, which is a big deal. So that's why you want Mulan to be expertise, or you'd have to have her like 5.5, but then she gets an actual like a slightly buff with her expertise on her like buff and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're gonna use him with Mulan, you'd have to have her like 5.5 like I was saying. But for most people, definitely use Ethelfled with him second because it's going to be the easiest way to debuff and buff your allies. So talent tree that we're going to run through real quick. This is the talent tree that I use for Trajan. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it. It's just that if you're going to use him with Ethelfled, especially, you're going to want to be able to slow down the marches around you because she deals extra damage, as far as I can remember, to targets that are slowed. So you deal 20% increased damage to enemy troops when they're affected by slowdown. So a slowdown is basically a reduced in march speed, and with the talents that you get from Cage of Thorns, you're going to get a march speed reduction on contact. And she also does the same thing with, I think, her active skill, or maybe it's a passive skill. So more than likely, you're going to want to slow down your target. And Trajan isn't necessarily fast, but he's not slow. So you want to kind of use this talent tree to get the most rage with the support tree and be able to slow down your target while getting the buffs from some of your other troop types like this, where you get, after using a skill, increases troop defense by 20%. And some of these other skills that you get up here, it's okay, but once you're below 50%, it's not as good. So this is a talent tree I'd recommend to you. I really don't know if there's too many changes unless you're using some other commander other than Ethelfled, and you might try and get something if you're healing or something with use Constantine or something. But that would be another thing that I'm going to talk about real quick. If you don't have Trajan, you can always use Constantine instead as a support march, because he, as a 5/5/1/1, is going to be good enough for you to use in the open field, because he's going to buff 10% all damage reduction, I think it is, on his main primary skill. If you get it to 5, which you should. But if you're going to be using Trajan, I would recommend you get him to 5/5/1/5 at a minimum, so you get all the defense and health bonus that you can get. And then the third skill is just basically extra troops. Well, the target takes more damage after an active skill is used, but it's not as big of a deal. Obviously, if you're going to be using Trajan, it might be a good idea to expertise him, but a 5/5/1/5 is a very good start, and that's probably where I'm going to leave him at for this account as I work on other more important commanders like Nevsky. So that is basically what you would want to do with Trajan. Equipment-wise, you're mostly going to probably use infantry with this commander for the majority of the time. So this is kind of my set, because it's kind of a all different troop types kind of build, because you're going to have your windswept set, which buffs other commanders and different or other troop types and things like that. You can always upgrade to some of the epic gear that's from infantry that buffs infantry for majority of the time. So that would be what I would recommend to you guys, is mostly use infantry with him, but depending on your special unit, you can also switch and match with what you want. But the only reason you would not want to use Trajan, I would say, is in case you want to do more damage and you can afford to have other marches that do a lot of damage. But otherwise, if you're going to bring a support march, it usually in general is going to help you get more kills with your other marches if you're using a support march. It kind of just depends on your preference on how you want to get kills, if you're wanting to buff your other marches to do better, or if you want to bring another march that brings another type of utility to the field. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's basically just a guide on Trajan and how I would build him in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow or the day after, because my restart account is having Kingsland open tomorrow morning. I'll be recording that and posting that every time that I get a chance, and that's going to be a lot of fun, I hope. Hopefully it lasts a couple days so I can have some content for you guys in the next couple days, most likely with music, but we'll just have to see how it goes, because I'll be at work when it first starts tomorrow morning, so just depends on how things go, how I'm able to record it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.